key vault. So what exactly is the significance of key vault? How we can make use of the key vault for storing the secured keys and attaching them also to the application and ARM templates and stuff like that. That is what we are going to actually look at in this particular session. So what is this key vault? Basically vault means we understand, right? Something like a purse. So we want to now store our keys very securely, and at the same time we should be easily be able to replace them. Now storing keys in something like web.config is not safe because web.config can be viewed by others. So that may not be the safest place to put the keys. So that is where the key vault comes into the picture. So key vault serves as store of cryptographic keys and secrets such as authentication keys. Whenever you want to do some kind of authentication, we have seen in Azure Active Directory the authentication key would be required, that we can put in key vault. We can put storage keys in the key vault. We can put encryption, data encryption keys in the key vault. Not only that, we can also put the PFX, basically certificates, in the key vault, and any kind of password we may want to probably store, that also can be stored in the key vault. So developers can create key vault for development and testing in minutes, and then seamlessly migrate them to the production keys. So during development we are going to put the keys in the key vault, and then once I deliver the project, the owner of the product, the owner of the application, can always go to the key vault and make changes to the keys once it has gone into production, and that can be done in seconds. There is nothing long procedure for doing that. Yes, there will be a security administrator who would be responsible for granting and revoking permission to the keys as needed. So basically in managing a key vault, these are the different roles we have. We have a key vault owner, we have a key vault secret owner. Basically within the key vault we are going to have keys and secrets. Two things will be there. Now, what is the difference between key and secret? A key is supposed to have a value, and secret by itself is a value. So like that I can say they are different right now. Yeah, we'll see programmatically we'll store some things as key and some things as secret. So we'll have a key vault owner, then we'll have a key secret owner. Most of the time it is the same person. Key vault owner only will be taking care of the key and secret owner, but they need not be. Then we have application operator, the person who is operating the application, then the application itself, and of course the auditor who will be responsible for auditing stuff. So first thing, create a key vault. That's the job of the key vault owner, mostly the administrator. The key vault administrator will be responsible for creating a key vault. And then very importantly, this is the person who is going to authorize various applications and users for specific operations. So authorizes applications and users for the specific operations. Then this is the person who is responsible for adding keys and secrets to the key vault. 4. Configure application with URI of key, secret or entire vault. Basically complete access to the key vault is provided in the form of URI. So we are going to use that URI in the application. So here the configuration of the application is going to happen, and of course the application itself uses the keys and secrets in the key vault, or less commonly, sometimes, not necessary, but sometimes the application is also responsible for adding keys, updating keys and secrets in the key vault. So basically application uses key vault whose keys and secrets are configured by the application operators, and the keys by themselves are created by the key and secret owners according to the permissions provided by the key vault owner. That's how the whole thing gets. And of course, as I said, the auditor is responsible for monitoring the logs and going back again any kind of update to the keys which have to happen, like while moving from, let us say, development to production. the key secret owner is going to do that changes. And then any kind of permission updates, yes, obviously this administrator owner of the key vault will only do it. Delete keys or secret when they are no longer needed. And of course the deletion of the key vault itself when no longer needed is taken care by this. So I am repeating once again, most of the time these two things are taken care by the same person but not necessary. So now, what are the benefits of using key vault? Why not something else? What is the benefit of key vault? First, it increases security and control over keys and passwords because it is pretty safe. And why it is safe? In key vault, it is almost impossible for anybody to hack it. It uses something FIPS 142 level 2 validation. Hardware security modules are basically used. I don't know much about this. Somebody who is more into security should be aware of these protocols. But that protocol is implemented by Key Vault and that makes it very, very, very secure. Because it is in cloud, while trying to access the Key Vault, we will have least amount of latency because it can be globally redundant. Like everything else, we can make it available in multiple locations. So we can create keys and import encryption keys in minutes. Applications have no direct access to the key. We are always going to have access through a URL. Simplify and automate the task for SSL TSL certificate. That means basically certificates also can be placed in the key vault. So keys versus secret, that's the very important thing. A secret is essentially small data blob. Direct by itself, it is some blob that authorized users and applications can retrieve from the vault. Whereas keys stored in the vault do not leave its boundaries. Most of the times, we never access value of a key directly. We will tell applications, hey application, please go to the key vault and take the value of that key and authenticate the user. But we will never directly access the value of the key. Whereas secret, we will always try to access it. To secure access to secret, you have to create an Azure Active Directory objects representing these users or applications which they subsequently use to authenticate. Effectively, you avoid potential risk associated with users storing secrets in non-secure locations and eliminate the need to hardcode them into the application. For example, let us say I want to store connection string of a SQL Server database. Right now we store it in the configuration file. Instead of storing in the configuration file, I'll prefer storing it in the key vault and that is more secured. That is the advantage. Unlike secret, keys stored in the vault do not leave its boundaries. This is very important and very interesting. I told you. Once you add a key to the vault, users and applications must invoke cryptographic functions to perform any operations that require its knowledge. On the other hand, ability to complete such invocation is also subject to the successful Azure Active Directory based authentication. So basically we never try to decrypt the key, we can say. We just use it and refer the applications to that particular key to access it. In either case, whether you want to access keys or secrets, users and applications. See, every time I'm saying users and applications because sometimes we as a user would want to get the key and also the runtime application itself would want to get the key. So for both of them, what is the requirement? Both of them should have an Azure AD token and that token is supposed to represent the security principal which has sufficient permissions for accessing the key vault. Actually, this diagram explains everything. Let's see this. Now, first point. Let us say this is a key vault administrator. Now, this key vault administrator is responsible for creating a Azure Active Directory service principal. Basically, it can be a application, Azure Active Directory application which is created. And we know that Azure Active Directory application gives us app ID and app secret. So that app ID and app secret is what is going to be used by the administrator, and it will create a key vault and set access control list to that AD application. So this will be created by administrator, and also the key vault will be created by the administrator, and the permission on this key vault will be provided through the service principal which is created in Azure AD. That's how it is done. Now comes the role of applications. Now these are the applications, various types of applications which we will have here. Now these applications are responsible for authenticating themselves with Azure AD. We have learned this. How do they authenticate themselves using Azure AD? And in response, Azure AD is going to provide us with a token. And that token is what we will go to the key vault, and then based on the permissions which are given to that token, as per the access control list here, there will be exchange of key vault between the application and the exchange of keys and secret between the application and the key vault. Yeah, as I told you earlier, most of the time we only perform read operation, but if in case we have permission, we can also perform the write operation on the key vault through our application itself. So let me explain to you once again the whole process. In the process, when we want to make use of the key vault for storing keys and secrets, the administrator, the owner, will be responsible for first creating a Active Directory service principal, basically an Active Directory application. Active Directory application, we know, can have a list of users and groups to whom the relevant permissions can be granted. That is referred here as service principal. Now the next action would be the administrator would be responsible for creating the key vault and connecting the same Active Directory application with this key vault. So basically, inside the key vault, permissions are granted to the users who are authenticating themselves with Azure Active Directory. What kind of permissions? Can be read permissions, can be write permissions, can be both read and write permissions. So those kind of access control list permissions are provided by the administrator on the key vault. So this finishes configuration of the key vault. We now know these users have these permissions. These applications have these permissions. Now the most important thing. When the application is trying to log in, the application will authenticate itself with the Azure Active Directory, and in response it is going to get the token. Generally it is referred as access token, and that token is supposed to be a secure token containing complete identity of the user or the application who is trying to access. With that token, it will go to the key vault and request for the access to various keys and secrets. How? It is going to submit a RESTful request. From here, a RESTful request will be submitted, and along with the RESTful request, the token will be attached and submitted. And that response will be the value of the secret or whatever it wants, basically. Yes, there are cases where if permission is granted, the application also may want to add keys into the key vault, but all that will be decided by the administrator. So I was saying, to access keys and secrets, users and applications must possess an Azure AD token representing the security principal with sufficient permissions to target the key vault. And second thing it should know the REST API. Of course, instead of REST API, you can also use the PowerShell, but through code, through application, if you want to do, obviously you are going to make use of the REST API to retrieve secrets and public parts of the keys in JSON format from the key vault. Only the public parts of the keys can be accessed. Now, Yes, the administrator would sign in to the Azure subscription. This is what I'm going to perform now. Create a key vault for the organization in which to store keys, and then administrator is responsible for the operational tasks such as creating and importing of keys, revoking or deleting of a key, authorizing users or applications to access the key vault. I explained you on top the same two roles. The first two roles, they can then manage or use the keys and secrets, configuring the key usage, monitor the key usage. All these things the administrator would be alone responsible for performing, or it may delegate some of these things. Now, what is important, the after doing all these things, for accessing a particular key along with the token, the user would need a URL. The administrator is then going to provide that URL to the developers, and developers would use those URLs in the application. So this is Azure Key Vault. Developers are given the keys, and administrator will be responsible for managing the log and stuff. Now,